Welcome to the Quilt Along with John podcast. And today we have gone very far abroad. We've got the fabulous Tracy Arnet from Canada. Tracy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell everybody where you're from and tell us a little bit about you.
So I was born on the west coast of Canada and grew up in a logging and farming community. And then I eventually moved to the east coast and which is in Montreal in Quebec. And I've had the privilege of raising 5 children, and I have 5 grandchildren. And it just started from there.
5 kids and 5 grandchildren. That's amazing.
I know.
How old's your youngest grandbaby?
He is 6 months.
No, he's not 6 months already.
Yes, he just turned 6 months. So, and he's cute as a bug. So, and my other ones are in Alberta, so I don't get to see them as much, but we can FaceTime and Zoom. And so, yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's not the same, but it's a nice little substitute.
Exactly.
So how did your quilting journey start?
So I've always been sewing since I was very young. The very first thing I can remember sewing was my aunt had given me, I guess they were men's suit sample, but perfect rectangles. And they were just a nice quality of wool. So I just put them all together and that would be my first quilt, because then I raided my mother's stash and got some purple flannelette, and I did like I flippity do is what I call it, and not even knowing what I was doing. You sew around the edge, leave a hole, and pull it out.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so and I didn't even know what I was doing. I just knew I wanted to sew these together. And then I believe I tied it maybe with some yarn. I'm not even sure if I did that. And then it's in school, I always took sewing and sewed clothes, and I did all my kids' clothes and blankets and baby quilts, but it was never, I'm going to say it was never official quilting. It was just what I threw together. But then in 2008, I had the fortunate opportunity to work with this lady. She owned a shoe store, but her other passion was a quilt store. So I worked for a couple of years in her shoe store, and then she needed someone to help out in the quilt store. So she transferred me up there. And so I had never used a rotary cutter. I knew how to fabric and all that and measure, but the actual quilting, I had to wing it and go by the seat of my pants. And so the very first day, this wonderful lady, my first day was on the day when all the local ladies would come in and have a sit and stitch. And this wonderful lady named Roly, I was trying to cut a fat quarter or something for one of the ladies, and she looked at me and she goes, "What the hell are you doing? Give me that." She took the rotary cutter from my hand and showed me how to use it. And that was my first experience in the quilting world.
And how many fat quarters have you cut since?
Oh my God, too many. So from there, I've always loved fabric. I've always loved color. So it just was the perfect sort of jump into it. And it started from there. And then these ladies met every Wednesday, and they invited me into their group, and it just snowballed from there.
That's wonderful. And I have to say, when you're talking about color, you just have to look over your shoulder at the incredible amount of color there. These are amazing. Let's talk about the one on your other side of your shoulder there, that giant circle piece. What is that?
Believe it or not, that is the first official quilt I did. And that was horizontal fabric that I felt was kind of ugly. It just didn't make sense to me. But I like rulers and I like techniques. And there was a 10-degree ruler and a pattern. So I thought, well, I'll just grab that to practice, because if I screw it up, no one's going to know. But as I was cutting it and putting it together, it started to make the circles in it. And it's actually 4 seasons of the trees. and those are it created circles, and I was just floored. So I call that my circle of life/tree quilt, and that I kind of keep as a homage to my dad's logging heritage.
That's incredible. And I can't believe, so that's the same fabric, just in different
Yeah,
colorways.
yeah.
That's
It
incredible.
it had like the purple stripe, the green stripe, the red. When you saw it on the bolt, you thought, what the heck were they thinking? But with that ruler specifically, it just made it pop.
But it is incredible how a ruler can change fabric. You've just got to look at a stack and wax and see how that
Well,
changes everything.
I was going to compare it to that. Yeah, the stack and wax are amazing. So yeah, that's
And my
how
favorite thing for a stack and wax is everybody says you've got to look for the ugliest fabric you can find, and it makes the most beautiful stack and wax.
Well, that would have been perfect.
But for fabric you hated, the fact it's still up on your wall, I think is wonderful.
Well, yeah, it turned into this beautiful piece, and that's what blew me away. And so it started me, excuse me, looking at fabric differently and color, and
Now talk to me, what's that?
So this is just one of the first pieces of handwork I did. It's a snowman. And
Oh my goodness, yes it is.
And it's the first time I quilted by machine, or a domestic machine, and I just echoed it. And
That's
then
amazing.
this one is just all out of recycled wool. Anyways, it's all recycled wool and done by hand.
Recycled wool. I think that's amazing. What a wonderful technique.
Yeah, it was I forget the name of the designer, but it just really was nice. And I liked what it said: family, home, and friends.
Oh.
And so I used my favorite Kansas treble on the bottom, and yeah, it's a very relaxing, kind of like your EPP. Working with the recycled wool is very relaxing, and there are no mistakes.
No.
And you can embellish it with buttons and bows and all sorts of things.
We've all got those.
Yes, yes. We do.
So tell me, you've got a couple of other pieces behind you there. Talk to me about those.
On my chair is my Bargello that I'm presently working on. And I never thought I would ever do a Bargello. To me, it just was such a weird, not a weird concept, but extraordinary measures for making a quilt. And I am really enjoying it.
But it is colossal, that quilt.
Yes, I have this favorite designer, and they're all colossal. But
that's 110 inches long without a border. And I think it's 87 or 88 inches wide without a border.
Yes. But it's so fun to see the movement come. Since being off on COVID, my biggest learning curve I've found is color, and the different colors of how it goes and what you can and can't put together. Or there's actually no rules. You can put any color together. And so with doing this Bargello, I'm actually, every strip I put in it, I fall in love with it more, because I get to see the way the color dances. And to me, that's fabulous. And this is not something I would have put together on my own, because it was, I tended always to stick to the same color range or a collection. That's where I felt safe. But this has really pushed me into a different category, and it's okay to be bold. Also, if you can see the quilt in the corner there, that was my very first COVID quilt, and that color, again, I wouldn't have used a gray. And
I remember that quilt because that was a class that we all did. And when you were looking at the backgrounds, and I don't know who mentioned the grey, but somebody mentioned it, and you were like, no. And then you put it together and you were like, ooh. And grey really works well.
And that's a color I've never, ever used. And now it's in quite a few. It's such a good neutral as opposed to beige or white. Now
you and I both have handy quilter long arms.
Yes.
So your long arm journey as well, when you start doing the quilting on that, doing a darker color, it opens up so many different options for the colors that you can use for your thread as well.
Yes. So that's my next rabbit hole I'd like to jump in, because my long arm isn't computerized, but I am pushing my skills to do more and more. So eventually, I'm not sure if I'll ever get to be able to do it computerized, but a bit of ruler work and just be able to really hone the skills of free arming.
So when did you get your long arm?
Uh, I think it was either late 2013 or early 2014, somewhere in there. So I've had it for about 6 or 7 years.
No
No
regret?
regrets. No regrets, because that's what I found. All the women that I always talk to, they always have tons and tons of tops, but they never finish them. And that's part of it, is the long arming, because it is costly and a lot of them don't want to do it on their domestic machines. So I got it to do mine and to help out a few, a few people. And if they want, it's just basic what I started out to do, and they were fine with that. And I've had the privilege of long arming a couple of memory quilts for people. And
They're
that
very special. They really are so
yeah.
special.
And it's really an honor and a very special time when you're doing it with long arming it and having that quilt on your quilter.
Very much.
For me anyways. So you sort of channel whatever's coming from the quilt, and away you go. And sometimes that happens. I don't even know what I'm going to do on the quilt, and it tells me. So that I think is kind of cool too.
Holding that fabric and seeing those incredible stitches, you kind of get to know the person, knowing you're seeing their hard work and their heart in these quilts. You really do.
Well, and that's what I firmly believe, that quilting is all done out of love, and it's from the heart, because you're either making a quilt for a baby, someone, a birthday, a marriage, someone who's sick. And so to me, quilting it just comes from the heart.
And I do think having a long arm, I don't know about you, knowing that you're stitching together something that somebody is going to love. And when they are poorly, they crawl under their quilt. And when they are happy, they crawl under the quilt. Or it's just, you're part of their memories and you're part of their lives. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's like a hug.
It is. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And for your long arming, 15 minutes a day. Apparently that's all you need for 30 days and your skills will improve tenfold.
Oh yeah, mine have improved so much now. It's just I can see what I want to do, but I'm just not there yet.
You will be.
Oh yeah, it'll come.
Have you entered any competitions or anything?
No, I entered a set of placemats once in a fair and won, and that's it. There's a couple local fairs that maybe if next year, maybe. It just depends. It depends on, they've changed some of the rules too and different things. So it just depends what I have that fits the guidelines and things. So yeah.
How have you found that COVID's affected your quilting journey?
It has slowed down the camaraderie and the get-togethers and the teaching. There was a few ladies I was teaching off and on, and now we just can't because of the rules and things. And the Wednesday group of ladies that we used to get together, we haven't been together at all. And that I know is a huge loss, because everyone was really connected and we really miss everyone. We stay in touch by phone and we send pictures and things, but it's not the same.
It's not. It never is.
And I think that's what quilting did too, is part of it is supportive. It's community, like we've already said, but it's when you're with your people and you're quilting, if someone's having a sad moment or a bad day, you're there for them and they leave feeling good. And the other part of it is you get your inspiration from being around your group or your people. And we can make, and you always laugh lots. It's not a serious quilting get together, but we laugh and joke and eat lots of good food. And
Can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
I'm going to get into trouble with my ladies. So my ladies, there's an average age of around 75, 70 odd. Is yours about the same age group?
Yes.
Are they as naughty as my lot is?
Oh, some of them are. Yes,
Filthy at times.
I know.
There's one lady, I'm not going to say
Mhm.
who, filthy.
I know. Some of them, yeah, they tell their jokes. It's really cute.
But I
Yeah, they're
love
really,
it. It's just that wonderful spirit
oh,
with them.
yeah,
They're amazing.
I know. They are amazing. So that's what COVID has changed for quilting, I think, all over. And even just the get-togethers, the quilting guilds, all that's changed too, the get-togethers for the quilting guilds and things. So,
And they have changed.
yeah, I wanted to show you. I did my
Oh
set
my gosh!
for you.
That's amazing. Oh, wow.
So I did that for you. Oh, those are the, so this is Sammy's quilt, my grandson, and that's Stella's quilt over there. Okay, so that's Stella's quilt, my youngest granddaughter. And then this is Sammy's quilt. He wanted dinosaurs. And then this is just a quilt. I wanted to try the tumbler ruler. Like a
That's
big,
incredible.
I did it all in steps, and it's all purple pansies and stuff.
That's
So,
gorgeous.
and then there's my other little wall hangings of wool and stuff. So
Are you affiliated with any guilds or anything?
yes, Van Cleek Hill started a guild quite a few years ago, and I was president for a couple of years and ran it, and it was fun. And then for a guild challenge, we had to do a block, anything that you wanted, but it had to be a perimeter of 12 by 12 by 12 by 12, I think. So that was fun challenge. And we did placemats for the Meals on Wheels programs. The time we did 100 pillowcases for the CHEO Hospital in Ottawa for the children. So that was fun.
How fabulous.
And meeting up with them, it was a lot of inspiration, and we do a show and share every time. And some of the quilts those ladies produced, holy moly, just fabulous. That was a highlight to go and see that, because you always come away with inspiration and new ideas, and your head swimming with stuff. So the guild shut down right now because of everything, but I'm hoping when it starts back up, it'll be full tilt and running. So yes.
But equally, we run our Thursday night Zooms, and, the likelihood of you being able to join a Zoom in Hertfordshire, England, on a weekly basis, it's just unheard of.
Exactly. So like they say, one door closes, another opens. Yeah, to meet everyone over there and to be accepted and part of it. And I look forward to seeing all the ladies, because they're just a riot. So it's fun, and even when we did the Saturday sew along, it was just nice to have people to sew with.
Mm.
Just,
Very,
and
very
we're
much.
all in different parts of the world, and you learn about different parts of the world and different problems. It's incredible. So can you imagine where we'd all be if right now, if there was no internet? Like, it would be very, very different
Very
set of
isolating.
circumstances.
Very, very
Exactly.
isolating. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what are you planning? What's next?
Well, my plan is to finish the Bargello, and then I want to do some paper piecing of the flower block of the month, catch up on that, and just learn. Like I say, I love techniques, so I would like to do another stack and whack from start to finish, and now that I understand the whole process, and then yeah.
Even with that hateful tacking.
Oh, well, it's not too bad, especially if you do it correctly and not your own creative way.
I don't know what
I
you
had no
mean.
idea. It looks so pretty all the way around the edge, I didn't know you just didn't jump like that to tack it all in. And anyways,
I adore you.
you learn
Oh.
so much taking a course.
But the good thing is when you've made that mistake, you make it once. You will
You
never
only do
do
it
it again.
once. Exactly. Yes, I know.
Oh. So what's your favorite piece you've ever made?
Well, I really like my little recycled wool one, and I'm gonna say just the tree, because that was my very first piece. And I've done a couple of quilts for my nieces for their wedding, and those are kind of favorite. But yeah,
That's phenomenal.
yeah.
I'm looking now. What have you got behind your Bargello there with the little orange? Is it a Lone Star?
No, that was, I signed up to do the 7-week journey to Nebula with Jaybird Quilts. So that is rock candy, and I did it at a boutique. So for 7 weeks, I think they did, or maybe it was 5 or 6. They did a pattern every 2 weeks to build the skills for the whole quilt and get practice. And that's the one I got done, the rock candy. And it's on a diamond, all on bias, and it was fun. And again, it was using a little ruler called Sidekicks.
Yep.
So you multi-use ruler, and really fun to use.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with your quilting journey that you've done, have you got any tips or tricks or anything that you recommend to new quilters?
Go and buy yourself a couple of brand new seam rippers. Throw out your grandmother's seam ripper, and use a good quality of thread, because your sewing machine, if you use, I'm not a thread snob, but there's lots that are linty, and they just can cause problems in your machine. So find one like Gutermann's good, or Phil if you can, but Gutermann isn't very linty. But some of the no name or the different brands you can pick up really inexpensive, they're just too linty and they'll damage your machine. And the other thing, my other tip would be to have your machine, if you can, serviced once a year, and always give it a dab of oil, because it'll last you a lifetime if you look after it.
Very good tips. So do you have any quilting disasters or anything that's gone horribly wrong?
I had to unpick a king-sized quilt that I had long-armed, because I didn't notice that it was all done on the bias, and I didn't notice it was shifting. And when I got to the last corner, I had about 12 inches I had to put into like a little area, and I couldn't hide it. You know, sometimes you can tuck a little pleat. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, so it took me 27 hours to unpick it, because it was quilted quite heavily. And then I just started again.
Goodness, that's incredible.
Yeah, it took a long time, and it was a learning experience, because I learned, I was daydreaming that day. I know it was just one of those days, and I was thinking about 50 other things, and so to pay attention, and I really had to pin it, and I'd never done one on the that was completely on bias. The whole thing was, so I'd never done one before, so it just took a little bit of slow down, and I always had to have my hand in front, kind of stretching, you know, just to a little, I don't know what you want to call it, just a
Friendly
bit of
persuasion.
pressure. Yes, gentle persuasion. But holy cow, I was just about, yeah.
That's definitely a quilt you'd want to forget.
But it took me a year to get, I was ready to throw my long arm through the window, because I could not get it. It was, I tried every thread, but it was actually everything I was trying, it didn't like. And finally I found glide thread, and it was a game changer.
Oh, I adore my glide.
Yeah. And I tried all sorts of good threads, and I'd get like 10 stitches, it would break, and so it took me over a year to actually be able to quilt an actual quilt that was, you know, worthy. Like I practiced on stuff, and I gave up. So it's that for a long time, and then I figured it out.
I did the same. I just look at it and sulk with it for a little while.
Oh yeah, because it is intimidating. It's such a big machine, and it moves every which way. So just that actual movement, and then would have the thread break all the time. Yeah, so that was the only other thing.
And if you were giving some advice to people who are just starting out, what would you say to them to do?
In quilting or long arming?
Both?
Or if you're starting out, so if you're starting out quilting, I would say go slow, get a simple pattern, even if it's just squares. Get the feel of your machine, and just go slow. There's no right or wrong. If you're happy with it, that's fine. There are every time you meet up with someone, you always learn a new little technique on something. So just go slow, and
That's a
it
very
will
good
grow from
point,
there.
actually, because everybody you do meet has got a little tip of something that would help your
Yeah,
journey.
yeah. Like the half square triangles, everyone does them, not everyone knows about 8 at a time. And that's a game changer. And I
The
only
Jenny
learned that a
Bowen
few
is so
years
brilliant.
ago. Yeah, so just go slow, take your time, ask questions. There's never and there is never, I hate to use the word, but there's never a stupid question, or everyone will always answer your question, and they'll say, "Oh, we did that. Don't worry." We're all very supportive, and yeah,
And for long arming?
just take your time. It is a big journey, or a big learning curve, because it's going in so many different directions and it's going so fast. Just take your time.
That's
And
very good
again,
advice.
ask questions. If you've bought it from a dealer, then take advantage of the free classes or the free tutorials they'll give you, or lots of YouTube videos. And yeah.
But have you also found that the community on Facebook as well is incredibly good?
Yes. Yes. You can post anything on Facebook and they're there. I remember a few years ago, I was having trouble with my featherweight, and it was Christmas Eve. And I posted the question, and within 2 minutes, I had the answer on Christmas
That's
Eve.
incredible.
Yeah. So,
And is your featherweight your favorite sewing machine?
yeah. Yeah. I had that. I dragged that everywhere with me. And that was the first thing always in the car when I moved. And I sewed all my kids' clothes and baby blankets. And she probably retired in, I was probably 91, semi-retired, because then I bought my Bernina and went from there. But I still use her. I like her. Yeah,
Well,
she's really
if and
fun.
when you ever come to England, you've got 3 or 4 of them here you can use with pleasure.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, and they're fun to maintain, and they're great for taking to classes because they're so lightweight, and you can't harm them. You can't hurt them.
No,
No, and they're really good basic machine for someone starting out
they really are.
to use.
Because
Yeah.
also the good thing is there's so little that can go wrong with it.
Exactly. So it's perfect. And you don't need a big, if you really want to quilt, all you need is a machine that does a straight stitch and a 1/4 inch. And you don't need a big fancy, really expensive machine. I think a lot of us quilters all started with a basic machine, and then we've evolved into, something more.
The one we end up being comfortable with, however much that costs.
Exactly. Or you'll get a combination machine because you want to do a bit of embroidery and straight sewing. And so, yeah, you always progress.
You always
Always,
make it work.
yes, exactly.
Now, you've spent a bit of time with us UK quilters online, etc. Do you think there's anything different between what we do in the UK versus what you do in Canada?
Just your sayings. I'm flabbergasted at a flange binding does not mean the same thing. The word flange. There's a couple others that you guys say that I'm like, okay, like no, you guys basically do the same, maybe more English paper piecing, more handwork that I know of, because the women I know don't do that much. But no, I think it's pretty much the same.
It's interesting with English paper piecing. I find here a lot more people are doing classes and kits and things together as a little community doing it.
Yeah.
Do you find that in Canada as well?
Kits go well because kits are so easy, because I found, and this is my opinion, that not everyone can put colors together. They see a pattern and they really like it, but they don't know how to get the pattern into the fabric. So there's for me, there's two types. There's people that really like kits because then everything comes, they don't have to think about it, they can do it. And then you have the other ones that like picking the fabric and doing that. So, but a kit like a EPP kit would work well because everything's in there.
Which one do you think you are?
I think if I was trying EPP for the first time, I would like a little kit like we did. I made my own when we did the class there with the Tula pink pin cushion hexie, but then you can branch from there. But if you really don't know what you're doing, a little kit is nice.
I do think English paper piecing, that little class we did, was brilliant because we had Sarah with us who had never done English paper piecing, wanted to try it, did her little cushion and said, never, ever, ever, ever again. No, hate it, not doing that again. And then you haven't really lost a lot of money on it. You know then what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't like it, it's not too much. But look at Nettie and all her English page. She just took off from that little class and the hexie class. It's incredible. And sometimes it clicks with you and that's what you like and you go and it just makes sense.
Well, I personally have to thank you for being a part of my little quilting journey because I have absolutely treasured getting to know you over the last 1.5, 2 years. But we've known each other sort of 4 or 5 years with the different Facebook groups and everything. But the last year definitely, for the want of a better word, I must thank COVID for it because we wouldn't have got to know each other quite as well as we have. And it's been extraordinary.
Well, thank you too. And thank you for the opportunity to meet so many wonderful ladies that you're associated with because they're just a joy. And I love seeing them and talking to them and learning about their lives because it's incredible. It's such a small world.
It really is. We're a global village now, but I cannot wait for you to come through and meet everybody in person.
Oh, me too. My suitcase is already packed.
And your featherweight's waiting for you.
Thank you for keeping me sane because all the Zooms and the classes, it really was a godsend for me.
And many others. And I know you've helped other people keep them going as well. So cheers to you. And this isn't gin, but I'm going to pretend it is. Cheers.
Well, cheers. Thank you.
So on that lovely note, I'm going to thank you again for your time and to say have a fabulous week. And remember, please be safe, look after yourself, and don't lick anyone.
You beat me to it. Don't lick anyone. Yeah, I'm okay with that.